Well, welcome back to Andertons TV, everybody. Nick Jennison is in the house.
Coffee-handed.
Exactly. If you haven't seen Nick in an Andertons video before, then go and check out, subscribe to the channel. Maybe have a look up there and you can find out a bit more about Nick. But he's helping us out today, ably playing some tremendously rapid guitar.
I am the stunt guitarist for the day.
He is. That's it.
Sounds like stunt anyway.
Now, this next video is, I almost feel like I've clearly taken to heart, in a bad way, I'm scarred from the Soldano video that we did.
Wounded him.
I'm wounded
him. Hurtful
this
comments.
Concept of when a manufacturer claims to have a pedal that's amp in a boxy kind of thing, how much of that is completely fanciful? Like, is it just, why even say it?
Yeah.
And I don't know why we've picked on Victory here. I mean, obviously, Nick is a Victory artist, and Victory is a good example where clearly the branding of the Kraken amplifier is used across a whole family of products, including a traditional pedal.
And it's something I'm very familiar with, because I'm a Kraken user anyway.
Yes.
So.
And I think in fairness to Martin Kidd and the chaps at Victory, I'm not sure that their marketing necessarily says, buy a Kraken pedal, it'll sound like one of these. I'm not even necessarily sure that Soldano did that with the SLO, but it was received.
Yeah, people read into if you buy this,
it's the £4,000 amp, but I only need to spend £200 a pedal.
Sure.
So what we thought we'd do is go through what happens if you just have a pedal. The components in this pedal are unlikely to be radically different to the components in any other pedal. It's all solid state transistor-y, there's no valves.
It has to run on 9-volt DC. It's this big.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this should be kind of like a flavour of Kraken, and I think that's all you should expect.
Yeah.
There is an interesting one. I don't know that many other brands do something like this, but there's a valve preamp. So we're going to run that as well into the
Katana.
Katana, yes. Well, thank you very much. Only the best-selling guitar amplifier in the world. I couldn't remember its name.
Starting with K.
And we'll go, and that's like twice the price of that. So is that amazing? Yeah. Then we've got the essentially it's kind of that, but in an actual amplifier and with the whole 2 notes thing as well, which is interesting. And then we're into kind of ye olde fashion. That's a 50-watt valve amplifier. That's a 100-watt valve amplifier.
Yeah.
But they're all sea-dwelling monsters. Let's show people the clean sound that we've got here. Actually, you know what? This is a Katana 100 head that we flipped on its front so that you can see the knobs.
Yeah.
EQ is flat. We are on its clean sound. Of course, that may not be how you like to dial it into taste.
The Katana is set very clean. There's no real character from the amp. That, to my mind, is the distinction between an amp in a box type pedal and a traditional overdrive pedal. The amp in a box type pedal is, to my mind at least, designed to be the entire amp flavour. This is the whole thing. You can feed it with pedals like you would feed an amp, but it's not designed to augment an already distorted amplifier. It's not to say you can't do that.
Like, say, a Tube Screamer would do.
Sure, absolutely. Or a Klon or whatever. Insert overdrive pedal of choice. We're going to have a go, but let's do it clean first.
Go clean, yeah. I feel like we need to chug, because chugging is clearly... I need to try one of Ola's new chug pedals as well, but anyway.
People will ask.
We want to chug.
Yeah. I would do for the chuggo, I'd pull some mids out, just a wee little bit. I'd give us a little bit more top end. Probably take a little bit of bass down. So let's dial as we go. So maybe we'll start here. close, right?
Do you know what? I think the only thing missing is volume. I feel like we're not trouser flapping volume, and that I think sometimes metal kind of needs.
Yeah,
but
a little bit of thump. But
what would happen if you had light crunch?
Yeah, well, let's try it.
So I've now moved on to let's just play without the pedal for the minute. So we've got light crunch through the amplifier now. Is this, do we compensate by dropping the gain?
Turn the gain down. Now, here's an interesting point, is now that we've introduced some crunch, the effect of the tone controls in the pedal are being somewhat diminished.
Right.
And here we have to start dialing it a little bit differently because these become more of almost like a response control. So we can dial some bass in, it's going to make the feel of the thing a little flubbier,
right.
But you'll notice it didn't really add a whole lot of actual low end.
Yeah.
So maybe here you'd have to reach for the amp and you'd have to go, okay, we want some more low end. Let's put it in here. It's not it.
I thought it went a bit de la fizz, to coin a phrase there. I think the best sound we had was just as flat as you can get it, which would again perhaps suggest the more character you feel your amp has, like maybe you've got a Fender Deluxe or you've got a I don't know, something with a very distinctive characteristic sound. Maybe this is a tougher pedal to amp in a box type pedals. Maybe you would be better off going for something more what's the right word? That's more traditionally, like a king of like a blues driver or what else?
Like a Klon type pedal,
or a tube screamer or something like that.
Yeah.
We talked before about some of our favourite Kraken tones being volume rolled down on the guitar. And a valve amplifier will do that because you've got this kind of infinite spectrum of sort of harmonics, or I don't know if I've completely made that up from a scientific perspective, but I think a pedal is more like you've got this much, and therefore it's like it might do this all the gain, but then you might sort of go, but as I turn it down, it doesn't change very much. But I'm with you.
Now this is part of the compromise. You're right. We'll see. Can we go back to the clean?
We're on the normal clean sound,
okay, cool.
and.
It's not really doing it, is it? I mean, you could maybe get it with less gain, maybe.
But the point is to have all the gain and then drop it on the guitar, isn't it? Rather than, I mean, what does that sound like out of interest? Just a very low gain, all.
Fine, but it's not really.
It's not
it. No.
If you've not heard the sound that Nick and I are kind of talking about, it's this idea that here's the sound, and you've turned the volume down, so the sound cleans up, but it's still this big.
It's still big, yeah.
Whereas this kind of feels like as I'm turning the volume down, the sound is just going like this. It's not really.
It's the same, only worse.
Yeah, it feels to me like this kind of pedal it's like, turn everything up. Off we go. Boss Katana, find the setting that you like. If it's all about being a fairly high gain, chuggy kind of pedal. It's a absolutely killer sounding pedal for that kind of thing.
It'll get you that flavour for sure, but you need to make compromises with the amp to make it work. So if you have a one channel amp, you tend to like it a little crunchy, which a lot of one channel amp players do.
Yeah.
It's maybe not the move.
Okay. So this is the V4 Kraken Preamp, not to be confused with the V4 Kraken actual amp.
Not to be confused, but frequently confused.
Yeah. Now, why have we got 4 cables? Could you give people kind of the rundown of what's happening here?
This is half of an amp, is the way to think about it, right? So your amp is not one, but it's two. There's two things. There's, in layman's terms, there's the make it louder bit, and there's the shapey tony bit. A lot of the tone shaping comes from the preamp stage, which is where the distortion is made, where the EQ lives, all that sort of thing. And then you have the power amp, which is the part that actually takes this tiny wee signal and turns it into something big enough to drive one of these. And we can use this as the makey tony stage, but we can still use the makey loudy stage.
CBBS appropriate,
doesn't it?
This kind of.
But like, you know, I mean, it's
makey
tony. The preamp of this is in a loop in this. So when we engage the pedal, it takes this preamp out of circuit and brings this preamp in instead. It is also an all-valve version of the
yes, of course, and named V4 because there are 4 valves in it.
Strangely, the V1 is called V1 and there are no valves. So 2 channels in this too.
That's true. It is now the first product that you've got in the Kraken range that has this sense of Gain 1 and Gain 2.
So we'll start with Gain 2, which is where we were kind of at with this guy. So the katana, which you're hearing, is like this.
And again, just you know, the preamp is engaged.
It's doing something.
As soon as we click to this is all gone.
Yeah, none of that will work.
We're just using the EQ on here.
Including the gain and
everything.
The models. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So let's try it.
And then we had channel 1, which obviously is your slightly... Is it psychosomatic or whatever you call it when you're sort of, you know, your eyes see something and it triggers your brain to sort of hear something? Does this sound more valvey?
Yeah, it does. I mean, shock horror.
Whatever that means.
Shock horror, the box with valves in it sounds more like a box with valves in it. I mean, you know, not to be too reductionist about it, but it does. There's definitely a difference in response. And that is to be expected. We're literally using a different technology. It would be like the same car with a diesel engine, a petrol engine. It's different technology. It's going to behave differently.
You can run this in normal, plug your guitar in, take an output, go into a desk, apply some IRs, whatever, and it'll work like that as well. I wouldn't... You could do that and just plug into the front of your amplifier, but you get this very, like, the preamp in here is trying to be in control, and then the preamp in your amp is trying to be in control. It's not ideal. Again, I think it's even more important on this that you've just got the flattest, most meaningless. But
agree.
How we're using it now is, I always thought, what a genius idea, because if you've got an amplifier like a Fender Hot Rod Deluxe, and it's a 2-channel amp, but the gain channel's not that great. It's just a good, clean sounding amplifier. You can plug this in through the effects loop and you get yourself a real 3-channel amplifier then with separate EQ for each channel and all that kind of... It's a very cool, like, amp expander almost.
That's what it is. And that's how I use mine. Put some more reverb on.
Do you know what? It is though, isn't it?
It is.
It's like the pedal was here. This is definitely... We might not be necessarily here yet, but we're definitely here in terms of its dynamic response.
The bit that's missing from the beer thing is the ambience. Because that on its own is... It's fine, but...
We can have delay as well on here if we want, but... That's kind of, we're getting there, right? We're on the path now of, I think, what the sort of, almost what the point of this video was to sort of go, you know, is it, I got £200, is it, you know, what's the point of spending £2,000? And we're kind of, I think that's the journey, right? Can I hear how channel 2 reacts with the volume on the guitar?
Sure.
That is cool. Right, so we're going to move on again. Do you know what I haven't said? I think in the whole video, but just to make things clear, the Victory range has 5 different families of amplifier, depending on the kind of your tonal preference, and every family in the Victory range does this. It goes from a V1 pedal through the preamps, the amps, blah, 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 up into the big ones. So if you're kind of thinking, oh, this is interesting, but, you know, like that high gain thing isn't really my bag.
That's not me. I want...
Go check the rest of the range out.
Go get a copper or get a Duchess.
I'm trying to remove this...
this tag.
Yeah, right, okay, so this, and let's just sort of show you size-wise, it's about, I don't know, a centimetre or so bigger all the way around. Is this plus... 180 watt amplifier plus the 2 notes thingy output, but now this is, so now what we don't need is we don't need the Kraken.
No, the Katana.
We don't need the Katana.
We do need the Kraken.
We do need the Kraken. Be a weird video if we didn't. Okay, so give us a minute and we'll wire that in. As you can see, the Katana has disappeared and has been magically replaced by possibly one of the smallest guitar amplifiers in the entire universe. We're now driving the cab from the amp in here. And just to quickly recap, we've still got the 2 channels, so gain 1 and 2. We've got an effects loop. We've got built-in reverb here. We've got...
Which is unique in the Kraken range.
Yes.
This is the only Kraken with reverb.
You're completely right. Yeah. We've got a 2 notes output. So if you're not familiar with that, so again, give your sound man an XLR cable and you sound like you're playing through a cab, even though you're not. We've got the ability to plug power other 9-volt pedals off here. Really, this in the Victory range is the ultimate fly rig.
Sure.
You know, it's like you're traveling a lot. You don't want to go down necessarily the quad cortex kind of Kemper kind of route. You want to keep it a bit more traditional. You've got this, you've got your wah pedal, you've got your delay pedal, you've got a tube screamer plugged into the front end. It's all on a little board like that, and that's it. Yeah. You are good to go, whether the sound man wants DI or plugged into a cab. What, you know, voltage works anywhere in the world. Boom.
It is always in my Peli case, by the way. Wherever I go, I have one of these. Because you can plug it into a cab, it'll work. You can plug it DI to the front of the house, it'll work. It has pulled me out of the mud more times than I can possibly tell you.
Let's see. I'm interested to see, because it should sound a lot like this, but now we're going into a Class D power amplifier rather than a B power amp that was in the Katana.
That's
so
it. And even,
let's see.
Even flat power amps that don't have any clipping, they're still voiced. So the Katana's power amp is still voiced to work with the Katana, whereas this has been voiced to work with the Kraken preamp. So it should get us closer to the Kraken sound. I guess we'll find out.
There was one circuit in here that is different again to the V4. So Martin designed a thing called the valve react circuit. So this idea that if you're playing into a valve amplifier or even an AB, you know, you get that kind of sense of damp, you know, that sort of slightly squidgy feeling as it is a power amplifier. It's very natural feeling and quite familiar and comforting for guitar players. And if you were to run this into the Class D power amplifier without that, it's much, much more like slap in the face, you know, kind of, and which I think guitar players, bass players, I think kind of like.
Yeah.
Guitar players don't. So that sits in between and hopefully gives it a slightly more natural feel. But we, you know, let's see.
Yeah.
We're on green is gain 1, red is gain 2. So. not really hearing any difference between what we had with that into the Katana. It's a slightly different reverb chip, but it just feels to me sort of the same. Or feel. I'm not feeling it, obviously. Sure. I'm just hearing it.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It does feel different. It feels more immediate. It feels bigger in the low end. It feels thumpier. It's more like a real amp. Now, I will also say, just for anybody who's about to ask this question, no, we haven't kept the controls at 12 o'clock for each one of these because we're dialing these as we go, because the very nature of these circuits means that 12 o'clock is going to sound very different on each one of these bits of kit. 12 o'clock on the preamp is going to sound a certain way because it needs to work with a variety of power amps. 12 o'clock on the pedal needs to work with every amp under the sun. So we're not doing, this is what it sounds like at 12. That's kind of an artificial representation of how things are supposed to sound.
All right, well, look, can we just, I know you did it a little bit at the beginning, can we just hear that sort of, we'll put gain 2 up, you know, sort of 2/3 of the way, and then we'll just hear that sort of, you know, what's the sense of the range?
What I'll do with this is, because we have 2 pickups in this guitar and I can switch between them, I'm going to set up the clean sound on the neck pickup. So we'll dial that in, and then I'll keep the bridge pickup wide open. So that should then be our full bore sound. You would struggle to do that on the pedal, so as we've established, but this...
That's the first time I've heard that top end go. It's clean, but it's still quite loud, and it's bright, and it's got those harmonics in it. That
it's there.
Yeah.
Sure. I think that's to do with the fact that the power amp is designed to work with this circuit.
Yeah.
So, for sure, I mean, it's an amp that does a specific thing.
Yeah.
This is one of those things. But compared to the full bore sound we get from this...
See, that's the other thing I think that I wasn't getting with the pedal. I don't want the volume to disappear when I turn the guitar down. I just want it to clean up.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's what, you know, that's hopefully what, you know, that when we get up in it, you'll really feel. But there you are. So that's the V4 guitar amp. Let's click the magic fingers, and then we'll go the first time we're going. All valve, hail, hail, hallelujah.
Baby, baby.
Oosh. You should see the smiling faces in this room, the very first chop that Nick played. Okay, this is actually the original Kraken amplifier, the VX, I think I'm right in saying that.
That's
the 50-watt lunchbox.
This is the original Kraken.
So 50 watts, 2 channels, gain 1 and gain 2. Each channel has its own master volume, 3-band EQ, and now reverb has to come from little blue boxes like this one. Kraken fans...
Reverb is for the weak. It is not true metal, so, you know.
Kraken fans will know that on the back of this amplifier there is a thing called a bass preamp focus, or power amp focus, sorry. Yeah. I've got it switched off at the moment, which means the amp is free to be as bassy as it would like to be.
Good.
Let's just jump between 1 and 2 and see what happens. Look at the smiley face. It doesn't take much to make a guitar player happy, does it?
True. And that was gain 1. That was the low gain channel. Yeah, baby.
That's it. I rest my case, Your Honour.
Video done.
What? Now that's weird, right? Because, you know,
It's really not.
all we've really done now is added in a valve power section to this. You know, I know the preamp section. It's not an identical preamp section. These are using slightly different valves to this.
They're very similar, though.
But it's
very
fundamentally, you know, as you say in layman's terms at the beginning of this video, it's just now a real valve.
Yeah,
I've got to stop saying that. It's a valve power section.
It's a valve power. If the pedal was all it took to get the tone, the Super Kraken wouldn't exist. And likewise, if the Class D amp was all it took to get the tone, valve amps wouldn't exist. But valve amps exist for a reason, because they have the thing. They do the thing.
I mean, I'm excited now, because let's do that whole clean, because this is where we should now benefit from the really natural, organic, kind of rich dynamics of a valve amplifier. So
feel free, because you have the blue sky.
I'm going to I'm adding extra reverb. Yes.
All right, let's do it. Let's go on to. I didn't need to roll down as far with the volume control to get it. Now, this has implications on a guitar with traditional wiring. So this guitar is McCarthy 594. It's got passive PAF type pickups. Volume controls are going to behave differently and give you different tones at different points on their travel. Yeah. Whereas something like this guitar, which has Fishman fluences in it, that's going to be linear. So here you can turn it up and down as far as you like, you get the same sound. It's like having a volume pedal. Whereas this, the guitar starts to thin out towards the very end of the volume pot's travel. So I had to get into those very thin territories to get the clean sound before. Whereas here, I'm only down at about 3 or 4, and we're getting that kind of sound, as opposed to being on like 0.5 or 1, where things start to go, is it on, is it off?
We've talked less and less about EQ as we've gone up through the range, because by the time you just get here, why would you want to change that sound?
Yeah, that's it. That's
like,
nice.
Why does it even have EQ? It's just like, it's just, that's the sound. It's just like, it just sounds the nuts, that.
I absolutely agree. Because the V4 preamp from the Kraken is very similar to the V4 preamp, to preamp in the amp, we should in theory be able to rig the V4 preamp through the Kraken and get a very similar sound.
Could do.
You want to do that?
Do you know what? Let's do it with what? Because I'm.
Do you want to do it with the Super Kraken?
We'll do it with the Super Kraken because I kind of feel like what happens as well when we just go for a. You know, we could plug this into the effects return or something on the.
Sure, we absolutely could.
So okay,
yeah, we'll get to that.
That is the VX. Okay, last one. Here we go. Oosh.
Loosh.
Look, it's Nick's best friend.
Happy place.
Now, Super Kraken was. Rabir and Martin worked on this, and Rabir really went to town. So he wanted MIDI, more channels, 100 watts. You know, it's pretty clever amplifier. We're not obviously going into the MIDI side of things, but we are using the 100 watt mode. Let's see. Same kind of basic idea of gain 1 and gain 2. I think we'll go with, where did I have it? It's kind of here. I had gain 1 at sort of just below half and gain 2 just over half. EQ flat. Need a little bit of volume, don't we? Oh, jeez. Just punch me in the face again.
Oh, so big. But also, this amp has a clean channel.
Yeah, sorry, you're completely right. So gain 1 now is clean or crunch, whereas on the little 50 watt, it's kind of always more crunchy, isn't it?
But we've established, you know, you can do it with the cleanup thing, which is the Rabir move.
Should we stay on crunch then for...
Let's hear the clean, but then we'll stay on crunch for the rest of it. So, yeah.
definitely got a little bit louder, hasn't it? I think with the 100-watt amplifier, there isn't really anywhere to make it quieter.
Yeah, shock horror, 100-watt amp is louder than 50-watt amp.
Let's crunch it up. So we're still on channel 1, but we're now crunchy.
Yeah. That's tremendous.
It's very. I mean, the other thing, of course, and this video has kind of evolved into something else, really. I think now, but the other thing you're hearing here is,
now, isn't it?
Yeah. So, I think people mistakenly, for a number of years, saw valve power as 100-watt meant you wanted really loud, and 5-watt meant you wanted really quiet. And so you'd go, oh, I'm playing at home, so I'll buy a 5-watt. Oh, I'm playing a stadium, I'll buy a 100-watt. And I think it's quite good. Over the last 10 years or so, I feel like guitar players have become better educated, probably because of, lots of expert people on YouTube doing their best to educate you, ourselves excluded, obviously. But this idea that actually the volume is not really what you get when you have more power. There's a little bit more.
It's bigger though.
Yeah, it's that sense of, so what happens on a small, whether it's 50 watts a little bit, but when you're down into like 20 watts and 30 watts, you go bam, like on the guitar, and the amp goes, oh, I'm just going to squidge in like this, I'm going to compress, I'm probably going to overdrive, and I'm going to sound a certain way that some people go, that's the sound, and other people go, I don't like the sound. And then the 100-watt one goes bow, and the amp goes, no problem, here it is in your face. So again, not necessarily louder, but just like bigger.
We haven't even done Gain 2 yet.
I was about to say, surely Gain 2 is please!
And there are more tricks up this amp's sleeve too that we'll get to. Yep. I mean, it's so good. It's the same family of sound. It's just bigger, it's bolder, it's more aggressive, but it's smoother at the same time. With the best sound possible comes trade-offs. So what you have is you have a 100-watt valve amp that costs, I mean, you could buy 10 of these pedals for this.
It's loads of money.
Sure.
Unreliable.
It's loads of weight. You can't take this abroad with you. You could, because it'll work, but good luck getting it anywhere.
I think, as you rightly say, what we will do is one last click of the fingers. We will somehow hear this through the effects return of this, maybe, or into a clean sound.
We can go into the clean
Same
sounds.
with this, and then we'll just go or this, and and then maybe you'll go, actually, you know what? There's the difference. I have no idea how many of you can get to the end of this video because it's quite long.
It's a lot of Kraken.
But hopefully you found it useful. Anyway, one last finger click. Oosh.
Same, right?
Same. I mean, it's like 99 and a bit percent the same.
It is a nudge of a tone control away from being identical.
Yeah, so what are we really proving here? That like valves are just needed, right? Valve power is good.
Yeah.
V1 pedal.
different. Pretty different.
I know, but again, I think it's very much in the ballpark, and I think again it just goes to show that the amp you're running it into is incredibly important.
I agree. I absolutely agree.
I don't know what we've proved.
What we've basically proved is that, and this is not just a Victory thing, by the way. This is true of any brand that has a pedal version of the amp. It is very much the spirit of the amp, but it's not the amp.
What? So there we go. And that do you know what? This takes me all the way back to the very first Soldano video we got, where the closest we got the pedal to sound like the Soldano was into the Soldano.
Yeah, shock.
And you're just going clean channel in the Soldano with the Soldano pedal versus dirty channel on the Soldano. Yeah. As soon as you switch it to another amplifier, you're in a ballpark, and depending on the amplifier, depends quite how big the ballpark is, you know. But you know, as long as you've got a similar-ish sounding kind of flat response amplifier, you're in the ballpark. But there you go. What a journey. Well, look, Nick, it's been a pleasure spending the day with you here.
Yeah, great fun,
I'm going to stop this.
All of the notes on all the Krakens.
Goliath video that goodness knows how long it is. But thank you for coming down. You've got a long journey home, so safe journey home. But look, everybody, I hope you've enjoyed watching Nick over the past few weeks on some Andertons videos.
It's been a pleasure.
I'm sure Nick will come and see us again at some point in the future.
I would love to.
And again, links below to find out more about where you can go and watch Nick all the time if you would like to.
Kaboom.
Anyway, meanwhile, I'll probably see you again tomorrow in another video with someone else. See you later. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.